So this is the confidence and self-efficacy revision screencast. So one of the main topics in sports psychology and one of the most confidence. So you need to know two definitions first of all. A basic definition of confidence and a definition of self-efficacy and how they are different. Just write those down now. Okay, so hopefully you've got for confidence, we've got something around the belief, good word to use, that we can cope with demands, again, just good phrases to use that are placed upon us. The difference with self-efficacy is that this is in a particular situation, so it's situational specific. So it's a specific form of confidence. Right now, doing this, performing this skill, in this particular situation, how confident am I? And that's my self-efficacy. In other words, it changes all of the time. So confidence is seen to be one of the, if not the most important psychological factor that determines success. So why does confidence equal success? So can you get 3 reasons why that would be? So this type of question actually links in some of the other areas of the specification, which we would normally tend not to try to mix up the topics. But confidence is something that can increase some of these things. So we can see it can increase a positive attitude. It can get us into our right level of arousal or optimal arousal, and get rid of any anxiety. You could almost say that confidence is the opposite of suffering from anxiety. We can also increase our motivation. If we're more confident, we're more likely to be motivated and stay motivated, and also increase that achievement motivation. So the 4 sources of self-efficacy are vitally important to most answers within this topic. You really need to know the 4 sources and what they mean. So write down the 4 now, and a quick description if you can next to each one. So I'm hoping that we've got performance accomplishments as number 1, the most important, and then we have vicarious experience secondly, and then verbal persuasion and emotional arousal. So firstly, performance accomplishments. Just to have a quick think of what you understand by performance accomplishments. So performance accomplishments are sometimes called previous accomplishments. Is what it suggests that previous success gives us evidence that we are able to complete the task, whereas if we failed before, then that gives us evidence that we can't do it. So this is me knowing that I can do it because I've done it before. That gives me confidence that I'll be able to do it again. Secondly, vicarious experience. So again, have a quick think of what you understand by that term. So vicarious means through others. So we link this to social learning theory and modelling. So this is the second most important, because if I see someone else perform a task, then that gives me confidence that the task can be done, but I don't have any evidence that I can do it. So it's not as a big a factor as performance accomplishments. Thirdly, verbal persuasion is fairly straightforward and is what it says on the tin. So we're going to use that verbal persuasion, the use of statements, and this could be my own self-talk, but it's more likely to come from others. So it could come from the coach or teammate or captain. Emotional arousal. So just have a think about how that affects your self-efficacy. So here it's not the actual amount of arousal that we're in, but it's how we interpret, how we perceive the arousal, and hopefully, if we perceive our arousal as a positive thing for our confidence, then we will be more confident. So all four sources can affect self-efficacy or a negative way. Common questions around improving self-efficacy, we should use the four sources. So first of all, try and get an answer around the four sources as to how you would use each one to improve self-efficacy. And then add on any other methods that you could use. So firstly, performance accomplishments, we can ensure success. That might mean making the task easier, and we can also remind a performer of previous accomplishments as well. Vicarious experience, we can make sure that role models succeed, maybe in a demonstration or something like that. Verbal persuasion, this might be just that we need to persuade the performer that they can do it, convince them that they can succeed. And emotional arousal, you might need to help the performer to interpret the arousal that they're in a positive way. So if they're nervous, make out that the nerves are actually good for them. Other techniques that we can use will be to set performance goals, and hopefully we need to achieve those goals, because if we do, we gain those performance accomplishments that can be so valuable. Avoiding the social comparison, so the opposite to the focusing on their performance goals. Don't focus on comparing yourself against others. Use of imagery, if that's correctly done. Obviously positive imagery would be useful there. The same with self-talk, the positive self-talk, and attribute your success internally as you would do through your self-serving bias that we did in attributions. So we can see that type of a question here, looking at strategies that we can use to improve self-efficacy. You can see that if we just mention the four sources, that they are actually in the mark scheme, which is always useful. So this shows you how important they are, and then we can see that also within each one we get that answer as to how we would use each source. So within that question you've got 8 points for the four sources and their particular answers, plus some of the others around goal setting and some of the other things that we've already talked about down here. So quick recap, remember that we need to know about confidence and self-efficacy and what the difference is, why it's important, but we need to know the four sources. So know the four sources, be able to describe and explain each one, and be able to explain how each one affects or in particular improves self-efficacy. So that will be the most common question around improving self-efficacy. Thank you.